Commander John Mitchell stood as the alien ambassador entered the grand meeting hall of the Terran Empire's headquarters on Earth. The year was 2157 and humanity had spread across dozens of star systems in just a few decades. Its rapid expansion did not go unnoticed. The ambassador, Zexthal, was an Arcturian, standing nearly 7 feet tall with gray skin that appeared almost translucent under the bright lights. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he scanned the room, full of human military and political leaders. The Galactic Council reached an anonymous decision regarding the Terran problem. Zexthal announced his translator device, giving his words a mechanical tone. Your species has expanded too quickly and developed military technologies at an alarming rate. Emperor William Harris, sitting in the center of the human delegation, leaned forward. Although he was 63 years old, his eyes were penetrating and calculating. And what exactly does the Council propose, Ambassador? Zexthal placed a small device on the table. He designed a document written in Galactic Standard and English. The Council demands that the Terran Empire immediately cease all expansion beyond its current borders. Additionally, you will hand over your advanced weapons research and accept Council oversight over all of your military installations. A murmur ran through the human delegation. Admiral Dandlewright, commander of the Terran fleet, clenched his fist under the table that remained silent. What if we refuse? Emperor Harris asked, his voice calm. You have 30 Earth days to complete, said Zexthal. Thereafter, the Council will take appropriate action to ensure compliance. Make no mistake, the combined power of the 7 oldest space civilizations cannot be matched. After the Arcturians' departure, Emperor Harris summoned his war cabinet to his private quarters. Maps of Terran space and the Council's neighboring territories glowed on the walls. They want us to surrender without a fight, growled Admiral Wright, walking around the room. We knew this would happen, but I didn't expect such direct demands. Lisa Coleman, Chief of Imperial Intelligence, stepped forward. Her red hair was tied in a tight bun and dark circles under her eyes suggested many sleepless nights. Our spies in Council space confirm what we suspected. They fear us. Fear us? Asked General Paul Jackson, Chief of the Imperial Army. They have technologies thousands of years more advanced than ours. Lisa nodded. Yes, but they are comfortable. Their societies have not faced real war in millennia. Meanwhile, humanity has reached the stars after surviving countless conflicts on Earth. We innovate quickly when threatened. She pulled up data on her tablet. Look at these numbers. Over the past 50 years, we have improved the efficiency of our faster-than-light drive by 300%. Our weapons systems advance at a speed that terrifies you. Council species take centuries to implement the kinds of changes we make in a decade. Emperor Harris stood by the window, looking up at the gleaming towers of New Washington. They gave us 30 days. How prepared are our defenses? We have been preparing for this possibility for years, said Admiral Wright. The Phoenix Protocol can be fully implemented in 20 days. Dr. Samantha Lewis, the Empire's top scientist, spoke. The Nemesis system is almost operational. We need maybe 10 more days of testing. The Emperor turned to face his advisors. His expression was dark but determined. They expect us to beg for mercy or prepare for a hopeless war. Instead, we will give them something they have never encountered in their long history. A humanity united against a common threat. He walked to the central screen and opened it. A map of the galaxy. Begin evacuations of our border colonies. Deploy the fleet according to Phoenix protocols, and, most importantly, activate all of our dormant intelligence cells in Council space. His eyes darted around the room, meeting each counselor's gaze. The Council has existed for 50,000 years. They believe this gives them the right to dictate terms to the younger species. In 30 days we will begin to teach you a painful lesson about underestimating humanity. At the end of the meeting, Commander John Mitchell received his new orders. He would lead a critical intelligence mission deep into Council space. The fate of humanity could very well depend on what your team discovers in the coming weeks. The countdown to war had begun. Alarms sounded across all Terran military bases when the Phoenix Protocol went into effect. Fleet Admiral Dandel walked out of the command center as thousands of dots on the huge screen showed ships moving into position. Civilian ships returned to safe harbors while military ships took up defensive formations near important colonies. Status report. He ordered. his voice firm despite the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. 80% of civilian ships reached safe locations, its aide reported. Military readiness at 73% and rising. Hidden defense platforms are coming online. Admiral Wright nodded. The Terran Empire had prepared for this day since their first contact with the Galactic Council revealed the ancient aliens' distrust of humanity's rapid advancement. At the research center beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Samantha Lewis oversaw final testing of the Nemesis weapons system. Technicians worked day and night, making adjustments to the elegant devices that would be humanity's best hope against the technologically superior Council forces. "Run the simulation again," she ordered, pushing her glasses up her nose. "We need to increase the interrupt radius by at least CULF%. The Nemesis system was simple in concept, but revolutionary in execution. Created a field that temporarily disabled faster speed drives and quantum communications, the backbone of the Council's military operations. If it worked, it would level the playing field. Meanwhile, Commander John Mitchell met with his team in a secure meeting room. The wall displayed images of a distant Council outpost on the edge of Terran space. "This is our target," he said, pointing to a cluster of structures on an airless moon. "Intelligence believes it serves as a forward command post for the Council's military operations." Laura Phillips, the team's tactical specialist, studied the defenses. Her short blonde hair framed a face that rarely showed emotion. "Guards are minimal. They don't expect anyone to find this place, much less infiltrate it. Our job is simple," continued Mitchell. "Get in, gather information on the fleet's movements and capabilities, and leave without being detected." Engineer Kevin Barnes, just 30 years old and already one of the Empire's best technology experts, picked up a small device. "I modified our scanners to bypass security systems. We'll have about 40 minutes before they detect the intrusion." Edward Collins, the team's diplomat and linguistics expert, seemed worried. "What if we were caught?" Mitchell's expression hardened. "We can't get caught. The Council cannot know that we are actively collecting information. That would confirm your suspicions about us." 3 days later, their stealth ship approached the Council outpost, using the shadow of a huge asteroid for cover. The team of 4, dressed in advanced stealth suits, moved silently across the lunar surface. The Council security was exactly as his intelligence indicated, minimal and overconfident. Barnes quickly bypassed the security of the airlock and they entered the facility. Inside, alien architecture towered above them, with arches and materials that seemed to glow from within. 39 minutes remaining, Phillips whispered as Barnes connected his device to a Council terminal. "I'm in," he said after a tense minute, downloading the tactical database now. Collins moved to another terminal, studying the alien text scrolling across the screen. "This isn't just a command post," he said, his voice tense and worried. "It's a staging area. They had been assembling ships here for months." Mitchell looked over his shoulder at the data. "How many ships?" "Hundreds," Collins replied. "They never intended to wait 30 days. This ultimatum was just a moment for the fleet to position itself." When the data transfer was complete, an alert sounded somewhere far away. "We've been detected," Phillips said calmly, drawing his gun. "Time to leave." They quickly moved back into the airlock, avoiding the alien guards who were now searching the facility. Once outside, they raced across the lunar surface to their hidden ship. As they escaped into the darkness of space, Mitchell reviewed the stolen data. The Council assembled the largest fleet seen in centuries, nearly 2,000 warships positioned along the frontier of Terran space. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "The Emperor needs to see this immediately." The Terran Empire now had proof. The Council never intended to negotiate. They planned war all along. The New Eden colony was beautiful in the morning light. 3 suns rose in sequence over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Governor Michelle Thompson watched this display from her office window, knowing it could be one of the last peaceful sunrises the colony would see. "Madam Governor, all civilian bunkers are fully stocked," informed your assistant. "Evacuation ships are on standby, as you ordered." Michelle nodded. "And military preparations. Commander Martinez has positioned our defenses throughout the asteroid belt. He says the trap is set." Although officially a civilian colony, New Eden has been quietly reinforced over the past month. Millions of tons of equipment and thousands of soldiers arrived, disguised as miners and agricultural supplies. The board would expect an easy victory here. They would be wrong. On the 29th of the ultimatum, one day before the deadline, hundreds of Council warships appeared at the edge of the New Eden system. Their hulls gleamed like polished silver, each dwarfing the largest human vessels. In the colony's military command center, built underground, Joseph Martinez watched the enemy fleet approach. At age 45, he has spent more than half his life in the Terran fleet, rising to the rank of commander through skill and determination. They arrived early, his second-in-command said. "I thought we had one more day." Martinez shook his head. They never planned to honor their own deadline. "Signal all ships to take position but remain powered down. Let them come to us." The Council's fleet moved with arrogant confidence, without concern for scouting vessels or proper formation. They expected no resistance from what appeared to be a lightly defended human colony. "Begin civil evacuation now," Martinez ordered. Across New Eden, people moved quickly to underground transportation systems that would take them to evacuation ships hidden on the other side of the planet. The first shots of the war came from the Council's flagship. Energy beams were released towards the colony's main city, only to be intercepted by defense shields that did not exist according to the Council's intelligence. "They seemed surprised," Martinez said with a grim smile. "Now let's really shock them. Open the trap." Throughout the asteroid belt that surrounds New Eden, hidden Earth ships have linked up and revealed themselves. Missile platforms emerged from excavated asteroids. The Council fleet suddenly found itself surrounded. "All ships engage at will," Martinez ordered. "Focus on the smaller vessels first." Battle broke out across the entire star system. The Council ships, taken by surprise, scrambled to form defensive positions. Their technology was superior, but they fell into a carefully prepared ambush. 6 hours into the battle, long-range sensors detected the arrival of a new group of ships. The crew was tense until identification confirmed it was the main Terran fleet, led by the dreadnought TSS Indomitable. Captain Frank Wilson stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the B before him. "Status of New Eden's defenses: holding, sir, but suffered heavy losses. The Council's fleet outnumbers them 3-1. Wilson nodded. "Let's even these odds. All ships, Delta attack pattern, deploy enemy devices on my signal." Terran reinforcements hit the Council fleet from behind, catching them in a devastating crossfire. When the first enemy device was activated, a wave of energy spread across the battlefield. Suddenly, dozens of municipal ships lost power in their faster thrusters and communication systems. Aboard the Council's flagship, the alien commander, a veteran of centuries of military service, watched in disbelief as his forces lost coordination. Humans have somehow disabled their quantum communication network, something that should have been impossible. "Fall back," he ordered. "Fall back and regroup." But it was already too late. Separated from each other and unable to coordinate, the Council's forces fought as individual ships against a united human fleet. When the battle ended, half of the Council's armada lay in ruins. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Wilson received reports of the damage. The victory was costly, but the message was clear. Humanity would not surrender and was much more prepared than the Council had ever imagined. The war had begun, and the first assault was by land. News of the victory in New Eden spread quickly throughout the Terran Empire. For the first time in galactic history, a young species defeated the powerful forces of the Council in open battle. But Captain Frank Wilson knew better than to celebrate too early. This was just the beginning. On the bridge of the TSS Indomitable, Wilson studied the battle data. The enemy system worked better than expected, but the Council's ships still caused severe damage to the human fleet. They relied too much on their standard tactics, Wilson told his officers. Thousands of years of fighting the same way against enemies who do the same. They don't know how to adapt. His second-in-command nodded. "Your ships are arranged in perfect formations according to your military books. When we broke those formations, they didn't know what to do." Wilson pointed to a section of the tactical display. "We won today because we surprised them. We won't have that advantage next time." Far from New Eden, Commander John Mitchell's team continued their secret mission deep within the Council's territory. Your small stealth ship passed silently through enemy space, avoiding detection thanks to technology developed specifically to combat the Council's sensors. They witnessed the aftermath of the battle from the other side. The Council's military bases struggling to respond, Transmissions S propaganda claims that the attack on New Eden was a peacekeeping operation gone wrong. Something isn't right, Edward Collins said as he monitored board communications. Listen to these broadcasts. There is confusion in your chain of command. Laura Phillips looked over her shoulder. What do you mean? Council forces are receiving conflicting orders. Collins explained. Some commanders are being instructed to attack the human worlds immediately. Others are forced to maintain their position. It's as if their leadership can't agree on what to do next. This matched what they had discovered at the secret outpost. The Council was not as united as it pretended to be. The team's new mission was to learn more about these divisions. Back in human space, the Council launched another attack, this time against the mining colony of Titan's Forge. But unlike New Eden, this colony had no hidden defenses or military fleet. Dr. Samantha Lewis received the distress call at her research center on Luna. How long until the colony falls? She asked the emergency coordinator. Hours at most. We have a relief fleet on the way, but they won't arrive in time. Samantha made a quick decision. I'm sending you the prototype of the Aegis system. It hasn't been fully tested, but it's the only chance. The Aegis system was the defensive system counterpart to Nemesis, a shield that could partially deflect the Council's most powerful weapons. The prototype was rushed to Titan's Forge aboard the fastest ship available. When the Council's warships began their bombardment of the colony, they expected the same primitive shields they had encountered before. Instead, his energy weapons achieved a new type of defense that absorbed and redirected much of his power. The colony's small defensive fleet, led by Lieutenant Alan Peters, took advantage of this advantage to hold off the attackers until reinforcements arrived. What should have been a quick victory for the Council turned into another costly battle. On the Council's capital world, Nexus, the 7 representatives of the Elder race met in an emergency session. The chamber, with its high crystalline ceiling and ancient stone seats, hosted such meetings 50,000 years ago. How is this possible? Demanded Zexthal, the Arcturian who delivered the ultimatum to Earth. They are children compared to us. His empire is barely a century old. A representative of the Veldin, a scholarly race known for their caution, spoke softly. Perhaps this is precisely why they are dangerous. They didn't have time to set in their ways like we did. We should have attacked sooner and harder, argued Zexthal. 3 of our fleets at once, not these piecemeal attacks. And some of us suggested diplomatic integration rather than threats. Rebutted Veldin's representative. Your faction defeated us. Now we face a war that is not going as you promised. For the first time in thousands of years, the Galactic Council found itself faced with a crisis it could not control and an enemy it did not understand. 2 weeks after the start of the war, Admiral Daniel Wright brought together his fleet commanders for a crucial meeting. The holographic display showed maps of Council space, with the main military and supply bases marked in red. Until now, we have been on the defensive. Wright told them that changes today. We are launching Operation Thunderstrike. The plan was bold. Instead of frontally attacking the Council's powerful military fleets, Terran forces would attack their supply lines, fuel depots, and production centers. The Council built its empire over thousands of years, spreading its infrastructure across hundreds of worlds. This created a weakness that humanity could exploit. They expect you to fight we go conventionally, Wright explained. To attack their warships in the battle for control of key systems, we will not do that. We will make it impossible for them to keep their fleets in the field. Captain Frank Wilson, now commanding a strike group of 6 ships, received his orders. Their target was a huge fuel processing facility in the Sentinel sector. The facility provided power for a quarter of the municipality's fleet. We came in fast and hit hard, Wilson told his team. The Council doesn't expect us to get this far into their territory. The human ships used newly refined Nemesis technology to enter the system undetected. The facility, with its minimal defenses, never stood a chance. Within hours, the facility was paralyzed and its storage tanks burned. Similar strikes occurred across Council space. Small, fast human ships appeared where they should not have been able to reach, struck critical targets, and disappeared before the Council could respond. Back on Earth, Dr. Samantha Lewis made another discovery. His team captured intact components of a damaged Council cult in the new Battle of Eden. By studying their weapons, she improved the Aegis defense system. Her energy weapons work based on principles we hadn't considered, she explained to Emperor Harris. Once we understand the science, we can build better defenses. This pattern was repeated throughout the Empire. Humans studied, adapted, and improved at a rate that surprised their enemies. Technologies that the Council took centuries to develop were being matched or countered by humans within weeks. On the diplomatic front, Edward Collins managed to establish secret communications with representatives of the moderate races of the Council. Using encrypted channels and meeting in neutral locations, he learned more about the divisions within the enemy leadership. 3 of the Council's 7 races pressed for war, he reported to his superiors. The Arcturians, Traxians, and Meverates have held power for millennia and see us as a threat to their control. And the others asked Lisa Coleman, who coordinated these secret contacts. The Veldin, Talari, Juxter, and Novelin preferred diplomacy. They were rejected, but now that the war is going badly, they are gaining influence. This information shaped the next phase of Terran strategy. Their attacks carefully avoided important targets for the moderate races, while concentrating on the Hawk faction's infrastructure. The turning point occurred when a Terran strike force encountered the Arcturian flagship, Eternal Dominion, near the contested Proxima system. Captain Alan Peters, commanding the human fleet, saw an opportunity. All ships deploy Aegis shields at full power, he ordered. Prepare boarding teams. The improved Aegis system allowed human ships to approach the massive Arcturian ship. Boarding craft secured to its hull, and Terran soldiers fought their way inside. After 6 hours of intense combat, the Eternal Domain was captured rather than destroyed. The Council's first capital ship ever taken intact. The psychological impact was enormous. The Council believed that their technology was far superior and that their ships were unbeatable. Now one of their most powerful vessels was in human hands, being studied and reverse-engineered. A message spread across the Council space. The humans weren't just reacting. They were winning. Planets that had lived under the Council's rule for thousands of years began to question whether the old regime might finally fall. After 3 weeks of war that should have ended quickly with a Council victory, the balance of power was already shifting. Commander John M. Itchell studied the holographic image of the Nexus, the Council's capital world. His team spent weeks gathering information, moving carefully through Council space in their stealth ship. Now they were preparing for their most dangerous mission yet. Nexus has been the center of galactic power for over 20,000 years. Mitchell told his team that no non-Council species had ever been allowed to visit without strict supervision. We will be the first to see this up close. Laura Phillips checked her weapons. Security will be strict. How do we get in? With that, Kevin Barnes said, holding up a small device. I've been studying the board's captured technology. All of your security systems use the same basic protocols. This will allow us to access your transport network without being detected. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would pose as maintenance workers for the planetary defense system, using forged credentials based on data they had stolen during previous missions. Once on the surface, they would gather crucial information about the Council's command structure and defenses. Their ship approached Nexus from the shadow of its largest moon. The planet below was beautiful, a swirling marble of blue oceans and golden continents surrounded by rings of defensive satellites and space stations. By activating stealth systems, Barnes said, the transport window opens in 3 minutes. The team donned their disguises. Environmental processes inspired by those worn by the Talari, one of the Council races least likely to attract attention. The ships separated from the main ship and descended towards the planet. For a heart-stopping moment, a defense platform turned toward them, sensors scanning the area. Then he moved on, and the team continued their approach. They landed in a huge maintenance area on the outskirts of the capital. All around him, workers of various municipal races carried out their tasks without giving the newcomer a second glance. Stay together and don't talk unless necessary, Mitchell ordered. Our translation devices handle basic communication, but avoid complex conversations. They moved through the ancient city, their hidden scanners recording everything. Unlike the elegant, modern cities of Earth, Nexus was a place of ancient grandeur, with towering towers of crystal and stone that had stood for millennia. The streets were wide and perfectly maintained, but the technology visible in everyday life seemed strangely outdated. Look at their communications terminals, Barnes whispered. Designs haven't changed in centuries. They are no longer innovating. Edward Collins nodded. Their society is frozen in time. Perfect and unquestionable stability. This is what the board values above all else. They went to a public information center where Collins used his language skills to access historical archives. Meanwhile, Barnes hacked into a secure terminal, downloading data about the Council's defense network and communications networks. We need to move, Phillips warned after an hour. Security patrols are increasing in this sector. As they walked back to the bus, they passed a public meeting. Hundreds of citizens watched news reports about the war with humanity. The Council's official narrative described a series of glorious victories, far removed from the reality of the conflict, but not everyone believed it. Mitchell noticed small groups of younger aliens speaking in hushed tones, questioning the official story. The war was creating cracks in the Council's perfect facade. At a security checkpoint, a guard studied his credentials for a long time. Phillips tensed, ready for action, but the guard ended up dismissing them. They were almost to the shuttle when the alarms started to sound. They discovered the violation of data. Barnes said, checking his scanner. We need to run. They ran the final distance to the ship. Phillips firing his gun to disable the security doors. As they took off, defense towers rotated towards them. Beams of energy cut through the air. Wait, Mitchell shouted as Barnes executed a series of wild evasive maneuvers. Their ship shuddered under the impact of near misses, but somehow they reached orbit and reunited with their flagship. As they jumped to safety, Lisa Coleman reviewed the stolen data. That's amazing, she said. Complete schematics of your planetary defense system, command protocols, even contingency plans. This could change everything. Mitchell nodded grimly. And another thing, the Council is facing protests on dozens of worlds. Its citizens are questioning this war. For the first time in thousands of years, the Council's authority completes 9 months of war. The balance of power has changed dramatically. The Terran Empire, once considered an emerging power that would be quickly crushed, has now been pushed deep into Council space. Ships built in hidden shipyards entered the fight, surprising the municipality with humanity's production capacity. Admiral Dangle Wright stood before the War Council on Earth, presenting his plan for what he hoped would be the final phase of the conflict. We now have the means to directly attack the Council's core worlds, he said, pointing to the holographic display. Not to conquer them, but to show them that no place in their empire is beyond our reach. Emperor William Harris, looking older after months of war, nodded slowly. The goal is not to destroy the Council, but to force them to accept a new reality, where humanity is equal. The attack would be launched simultaneously against 7 key worlds, one belonging to each of the Council races. The Terran fleets would bypass the outer defenses using enhanced Nemesis technology, demonstrate their power, and then withdraw before the Council could mask their forces. On the Council's home planet of Nexus, the political situation has become increasingly unstable. The moderate factions, led by the mostly Gilder school, gained support as the war dragged on much longer than the Hawks had promised. Zexthal, the Arcturian who delivered the ultimatum to Earth, found himself defending his position before the entire Council. If we commit our reserve fleets, we can still crush these humans, he insisted, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in agitation. Veldon's representative, a petite figure with light blue skin, responded calmly. More ships, more destruction, more lives lost, and for what? Humans have proven that they will not submit. Maybe it's time to consider another approach. Before Zexthal could respond, alarms sounded throughout the chamber. On the huge screen, red warning symbols appeared on the Council space map. We are under attack, the security chief announced. Human fleets have been detected near the Nexus itself, as well as the homeworlds of all 7 elder races. For the first time in the Council's long history, enemy ships penetrated the heart of its territory. The psychological impact was devastating. In orbit around the Arcturian homeworld, Captain Frank Wilson commanded a fleet of 30 ships. Your orders were clear: demonstrate the power of the Earth, but avoid unnecessary destruction. Target only their orbital defense platforms, he ordered. No attacks on civilian infrastructure. The Nemesis device is activated, shutting down the Arcturians' most advanced weapons. The Terran ships moved in precise formation, disabled defense platforms with surgical strikes, and then held position. The Wilson opened a communication channel with the planet below. This is Captain Frank Wilson of the Terran Empire. We could attack your cities like you tried to do to our colonies. Instead, We are showing restraint. Take this message to your council. We are prepared to negotiate peace, but only as equals. Similar scenes played out on each of the 7 homeworlds. The human fleets arrived, demonstrated their ability to strike at the heart of the council's power, and then delivered the same message before withdrawing. In the Nexus, the council chamber erupted into chaos. The hawkish faction, led by Zexthal, suddenly found itself without support. The moderate council members, led by the Veldans, moved quickly to take control. The warring faction has brought us to the brink of destruction, Veldans' representative announced. We hereby remove them from authority and seek immediate peace talks with humans. Guards entered the chamber and escorted Zexthal and his supporters away. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council experienced what humans would call a coup. On Earth, Emperor Harris received the news with cautious optimism. They are calling for a ceasefire and peace talks, he told his advisors. After 9 months of war, we achieved what seemed impossible. We forced the oldest power in the galaxy to recognize us as equals. Admiral Wright nodded. Now comes the difficult part, transforming military victory into lasting peace. The Emperor looked at the stars visible through his office window. We need to be wise now. It's not just about humanity's place in the galaxy. It's about creating a new order that works for all species, not just the oldest ones. A year after the Council's ultimatum, representatives from Earth and the reformed Galactic Council met at Omega Station, a former commercial center considered neutral by all species that share space. The station's grand meeting hall, with its tall, transparent dome showing the stars beyond, has witnessed countless diplomatic events over the millennia. But none exactly like this. Frank Wilson, now promoted to admiral, led the Terran delegation. At his side was Edward Collins, whose diplomatic skills proved as valuable as any weapon during the conflict. They faced the new council representatives, mostly moderates from the Veldan, Talari, and other races who opposed the war. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, Veldan's spokeswoman began, her bluish skin glowing under the hall lights. For too long, the council has ruled through tradition and the assumption of superiority. Conflict with humanity has taught us a painful but necessary lesson. Admiral Wilson stepped forward. The Terran Empire did not intend this war, but we were prepared to defend ourselves. Now we seek a peace that respects all species.